sharing my screen. I'm just going to put myself up the top because I don't like being on the bottom. Let's just put myself up there. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Hopefully you can all hear me. Can you hear me? That's always a good start. Today, I'm going to be talking about how we can deliver more effective speeches. And to do that, we need to look at what is the interest that you have in the speech. What is your knowledge? What is your passion? What is your audience? Then we're going to look at how you can use this in levels 1 and 2 of your pathways. And then we'll take a look at how you can construct speeches, different styles of speeches in your presentations. So the first thing is the what. In your Toastmasters experience, you'll give many speeches. Some you'll have a great passion for. Some you'll have great knowledge of. Some you'll need to get the audience interested in. When you are looking for speech topics, brainstorm a whole list of things and note down what is your passion, what is your knowledge, and would the audience be interested? And if you categorize your speeches by this, you come up with a different list. You'll come up with some titles that are perfect for speeches. You'll come up with some which are content rich and passion free. You'll come up with speeches that you should deliver to a different audience. You'll come up with fascinating speeches that you know nothing about. There will be speeches that you don't want to give now, speeches that don't interest you, and speeches that someone else should deliver. The worst speech is those that are like watching paint dry. So watching paint dry is when you have no passion, you have no knowledge, and you have no interest. It's going to be a boring, flat, unimaginative speech. You really want to avoid these. You need to find your passion, you need to be knowledgeable, and you need to ensure your audience is interested. So avoid wet. Then there are speeches that someone else should deliver. These are speeches sometimes you're forced to deliver, but you have no passion for it. You have no knowledge. Your audience, hopefully, is at least interested. You can transform these speeches, but it does take some effort. I will share my presentation, so you don't need to worry about reading everything if I go too fast. Because I do go too fast sometimes, because I often take too long to deliver my speeches. And that's because I have a lot of knowledge. And if I don't have the passion, it's difficult to translate that knowledge into a speech. And I tend to look somewhere else to talk about. There are things that I could talk about that would bore you to tears, and me, but I have a lot of knowledge in them. Some speeches you need to transform and find what is your passion. And if you only have passion but not knowledge, and only you have the passion and no one is interested, then it's not a speech you should be delivering now. This is a speech that you should wait until you've built up the knowledge and found your audience. Then there are fascinating speeches you know nothing about. You can transform these speeches into great speeches by looking at the knowledge that you don't have. But the risk is, if you have the passion, the audience has the interest, but you don't have the knowledge, is that the audience may know more than you. And that makes you look slightly foolish. So transform these speeches into great speeches. Sometimes speeches should be for different. If you have the passion and the knowledge, that is good. A hook. They're interested in what you are talking about. If you don't have passion, but you do have knowledge and your audience is interested, you can deliver a good speech, but it won't be a great speech, because passion is where we really get the audience engaged. You can hear someone's passion in their voice. Hopefully you can hear my passion in my voice. You need to rekindle your passion to make a content-rich speech a great speech. And then you come to powerful speeches. These have passion. These have your knowledge. These have the audience's interest. This is where everybody is engaged. Everyone is wanting to listen. Everybody is wanting to learn. This is where you should try to get all your speeches from. And where can you use those speeches is the next thing. Well, I always ask myself these three simple questions. What do I love? What do I know? And what is in the audience's interest? And once you've got that, you know you're going to be delivering a powerful speech. So with level 1, you have the icebreaker, the evaluation and feedback, and the research and presenting projects. All three projects lead themselves into helping you deliver a perfect speech. So when you're looking for topics for level 1, they are open. You can talk about anything. So you should be able to find a passionate, knowledgeable, and interesting speech. Learning to know your audience is something that you will gain more experience in as you deliver more speeches. But Toastmasters is a very safe place. We give you an audience that is willing to listen to you all the time. We start with the icebreaker. Now, the purpose of this speech is for the member to themselves to the club and to learn the basic structure of a public speech. It's about the speaker. We should love ourselves firstly. We should know ourselves. And from a Toastmasters audience, we want to learn about our fellow Toastmasters. So we have all three areas. My computer's telling me my internet's unstable, so if you lose me, I'm sorry. With the evaluation and feedback project, the purpose statement for the first speech is for the member to deliver a speech on any topic and receive feedback. Again, this is something that enables you to look at what do you love, what do you know, and what is the audience interested in. It's about delivering a good speech for the audience. And then you come to the second speech, and this is to demonstrate that he or she has applied the feedback that they've received. What was your feedback? Did you show your passion? Did you share your knowledge? The audience will still be interested, but was that shown in your speech? You can work on that with your second speech. The research and presenting project is about learning a basic research method to present a well-organized, well-researched speech. So what do you love? What do I not know but want to find out? That is your research topic. This is taking a fascinating speech you know nothing about and turning it into a great speech. And that will interest your audience. The other thing that you probably start doing at this time is looking at your personal stories, real experiences, because that is what gets audiences interested. So the level 2 projects are more about expressing your passion, being open on what you do and don't know. The audience is still interested in you, but you have some new goals and aims. Use those personal stories, real experiences, and try to create a takeaway message, a call to arms or a call to action. That is something that will get your audience enthused about your speech. I'm going to look at 3 of the common level 2s. Introduction to Toastmasters mentoring, which is done by every path. Understanding your communication style, which is done by a majority of the paths. And understanding your leadership style, which is also done by a majority of the paths. But you can also apply what I'm going to say to know your sense of humor, cross-cultural understanding, connecting with your audience, effective body language, and managing time. Whether you use this in active listening, which is more about segues from one table topic to another, is questionable. But if you show passion, if you show knowledge, your audience will always be interested in. So let's look at introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. The purpose of this speech is for the member to share some aspect of a previous experience as a protege. The speech is about a time when the member was a protege, any time in their life. So the question that I would ask myself is, who shared their passion with me? What did I learn from them? And is it relatable to my audience? What is the interest in this for my audience? Is it about me or is it about them? So use your speech to transform your message from being about you to being about your audience. There are some questions that I ask for understanding your communication style. Now, the purpose statement for this project is for the member to share the impact of their communication style on others. And you need to choose to speak about your own communication style or the impact communication styles have on you. Now, Toastmasters offers you a simple questionnaire which shows you one communication style. On talking about communication styles, it's not about looking at the communication styles as a concept, but what is the communicate your passion? How do you communicate your knowledge? How do you communicate with your audience? Again, using and real experiences helps create that audience connection. With leadership style, the purpose is to share some aspect of your leadership style and discuss leadership styles in general. Again, different leadership styles. None of them agree with each other. They all build on everything. So it's not about discovering a new leadership style. It's about telling people how you lead with your passion, how you lead with your knowledge. How do you lead your audience successfully? And that's where we start to look at what is the audience taking away from this? Again, we use personal experiences and real stories, or personal stories and real experiences, if you like. Leave the audience with a takeaway message, a call to arms or a call to action. So in answer to my questions, what do I love? I love passion. What do I know? I have knowledge to share. What interests my audience? Well, my audience loves to hear my passion and my knowledge, but I need to capture them with powerful openings, to take them on a journey and to leave them with something. I need to share my love, my knowledge, and a call to action. So how are we going to do this? Always look at the purpose statement of the speech, and you'll find that that will guide you in what you need to deliver. There are many methods we can use, but most speeches are made up of 3 simple sections: a beginning, an introduction, a body, the middle of your speech, and the end, which is a summary, a call to arms, or a conclusion. Using those 3 simple things makes it very easy to develop a speech, a better speech. You can do some preparation. Build up a bank of small or short stories that you can apply to your speeches. Think about your day-to-day actions. Think about your experiences. And guys, I know this is hard, but think about your feelings, because that is a powerful way of connecting with your audience. Make your point. Know your subject. Talk to your strengths and be certain of what your message is. So we start at the beginning. Now, you can start by acknowledging the audience. You can talk about the importance of the subject, show that we have an opinion, express your feelings about the subject, but get the attention of the audience. Then we come to the body. Now, each speech is going to be different, and you can tackle the body in different ways. There is rarely one right or one proper way to give the body a form. I'll go through a number of ways. And use stories to illustrate the points you want to make. A story can be a sentence, a paragraph, a few words, or it could be a substantial set of words. And then we come to... Someone's not the host. I'll just mute. Endings are important. Restate the premise of what you're trying to deliver. You can reuse the 3 points that you've made, or just a final point to reinforce the subject. Use a call to action. Have something that the audience can take away. I'm going to go through 8 simple speech examples. They are the rule of 3, the good, better, best, which is a type of rule of 3. Past, present, future is also a type of rule of 3. For and against, which is another rule of 3. But then for those that like humorous speeches and satirical speeches, you can disagree with the premise of the speech. You can change the subject of the speech. And for those that like storytelling, think about what the moral of the story is. Think about the hero's journey if you want to tell a longer story. So 8 different speech structures that we're going to go through. The rule of 3 is the simplest of all speeches. You open with signposting, telling what those 3 points you're going to make. And the body of the speech is looking at the first point and making a simple statement. Looking at the second and make it more convincing. But the third point should always be memorable, because that is the one people will remember. And your closing is to make use of all 3 points to close the proposition of your speech. So the rule of 3 is a basic way of looking at things. Now, good, better, best is a type of rule of 3, But each one of these is going to be slightly different because you start with a promise that you're going to start something good, but end with something great. And the body of the speech is about a simple, good point that's achievable. Second one, you continue, but you give a more thorough method and make it more acceptable. And the third is to continue and build upon that and give a really convincing argument. And you can use that convincing argument to close your speech, to give your takeaway. Past, present, future is a rule of three put into a timeline. And timelines can be quite expansive. Again, the beginning is to start with the proposition of the timeline. You can signpost it. You can begin with past points, continue then with present points, and conclude with future points. And each point can grow. Past, present, future has a number of different formats within it. I have seen my sister, my mother, my grandmother. I have seen my baby, as a child, as an adult. I have heard wonderful speeches use timelines in an effective and convincing way to get me as an audience member interested in the speech. The for and against is actually a rule of three because you introduce a proposition. And the body of the speech is to start with a positive point and then you follow with a negative point. So those two are counterproductive. So the third part of this is to declare your support for either the positive or the negative and detail your reason. The end reinforces the positive, the negative, and the supported position. Changing the subject. Now, this is great for those that like to be satirical. Restate the proposition, focusing on the alternative answers. Again, you start with a simple point, continue with the second point, and close with a third. One of the things in comedy is the rule of three, where you set up a timeline, which is 1, 2, X. So X is always something completely different, something left field. So changing the subject is doing the same sort of thing. So it's very good for humorous speeches because people are thinking, oh, they've given me two reasons. They're going to give me a third reason. The third reason is...
Are you gone, Dave? Oh.
Disagreeing with a premise is another way of using humor or sarcasm. It requires you to have the title as something completely different to what you want to argue for. And the body of the speech is about negative points and why the proposition is wrong. And you continue that building on with the second. And finally, a third and convincing rebuttal of the proposition. Use that in your closing statement and warn people about the title. Now we come on to the storytelling, the moral of the story. You link a proposition, the title of your speech, to a moral. Use personal stories. Use your own words and try to make it relevant. And think about what you learned or what you grow. And you can then give the moral at the end. You can mismatch morals. I recently told a story about a tortoiseshell cat and a hairy cat, building on the hare and the tortoise. But the moral of the story was twisted because the hairy cat had to shave in order to win and had to live with that haircut. So you can use personal stories, but put them into your own words, or traditional stories and put them in your own words. And then there is the hero's journey. Now, this is for longer speeches, but you can break it down into shorter things. And this is one of the basic storytelling methods. You have the call to adventure. That is the impetus for taking our hero out of his normal area and onto his journey. You have the challenges that he faces, those that help him, those that are temptations to take him off his path. And then the revelation. When all else is lost, when all else fails, he has an epiphany. He has some sort of rebirth, transformation, and atonement for his sins, and returns triumphant, not the same person, a changed person, ready to be called to another adventure. So it's a circular type of story. Very powerful in all your speeches. So there are my 8 speech types: the rule of 3, good, better, best, past, present, future, for and against, disagreeing with the premise, changing the subject, using the morals of the story or the hero's journey. Smart speeches use storytelling. They use movement in steps of 3. Be aware that you aim for your points that are relevant to your audience. And remember, always stick to time, which I may just do for once. The answer to all your questions is think of your audience. Try to talk naturally. Use those skills that you've learnt. Play with your words. Think of words that are more engaging, more descriptive, and relaxed. Give a relaxed speech, because if it's forced, you don't show your passion. If it's monologue, you don't show your passion. For those that wish to look for references, I have them here. I will put in the chat what I've talked about. And I will open it up for anyone with questions right now. Questions?
Anyone, if you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself, turn on your video.
So, Michael, in the chat box, there are
It is possible to get a copy of the slides.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, that was excellent.
And which one of these would be easiest to start with, Michael?
I'm
And Emma would like to speak. So, Christina, are you able to unmute Emma?
Yeah,
so I'm back. I just crashed.
Thank you.
I'm just going to try sharing that file again.
I was just going to ask for a copy of the slides, but is there an example of a speech that would use one of your methods? I'm just trying to think of like an actual topic that you could apply it to as such.
Have we got you, Michael, still?
Looks like he's having a internet problem.
Sure.
Can you hear me? Or...
Yes,
Yeah, we can
Emma.
hear you, Emma.
Yep. We were waiting for Michael to answer, but we can certainly step in. So many speeches that you watch on the international stage have a different storyline. And if you go back to those competition speeches, you can actually define what structure they've used. And Toastmasters on the District 73 webpage, I'm pretty sure we've got our district and division speeches as well. And if they haven't been uploaded recently, they will be uploaded shortly. So I'm pretty sure I also saw in the links that Christina put down of the information that we have on the district website of presentations. And you can see that in a presentation that's given with the structure of any of the workshops as well, which is often past, present and future on how you're going with delivering and where you can end up in the end. Have we got you back, Michael?
Oh, look, I'm bouncing like a yo-yo at the moment. It's fun.
So Emma, would you like to rephrase your question again to Michael?
Oh, thank you very much. Firstly, can I ask where those links are, or is it possible to email them?
I will share my slides.
Thank you. That would be great.
Once my internet is more stable.
And I can rephrase
because I tried sharing them 3 times, and that's why I keep bouncing. It says I can't handle this.
How about Michael? You send it to me, and I will compile all the references today, the links, the PDF in one newsletter, so you guys can have it in just one reference.
It should be there now because I've changed to running off my mobile phone rather than my internet.
Thank you.
So it should be in the chat now if you can see it.
Thank you. So my question was whether there was an example, like an actual example of when it's been applied, or like a practical application of one of your speech methods. But I think Sue kindly said that this can be seen in one of the Toastmasters links, but I'm just wondering whether, yeah, Sue, if you're able to send the link on the chat, or to provide some more information to actually see it in practice, that would be great.
Yeah, I was going to give an example with the moral of the story, but unfortunately, time was against me, and I cut a lot of that. But effectively, I used the tortoiseshell cat and a hairy cat. I then the tortoiseshell cat just wants to sit in the sun and sleep, whereas the hairy cat is all lively and wants to run. So they challenge each other to a race, and they set a date. The hairy cat starts to realize that because he's so hairy, he's going to be wind affected, so he shaves. And then they have their race. Now, the tortoiseshell cat goes straight to his favorite sunny spot and sits there and sleeps, whereas the hairy cat, who's no longer hairy, runs around. And the moral of the story is the hairy cat may have won, but he has to live with that haircut.
That's very funny. Yeah.
That's the shortest one I've ever told that story.
Thank you.
So what I mentioned earlier, Michael, was that on the District 73 website, there are a lot of competition speeches, and I thought they had been put up already. So if they're not there, they will be, or there's access on the Toastmasters International website to the international speeches, which is on the YouTube channel as well. So lots of ways of seeing speeches put together.
Yeah. So Helen's asked about disagreeing with the premise. So the whole idea about the premise is you give a statement and then you just shut that statement down in so many ways. And you can do that by being ridiculous. And that is where the humor comes from. It's sarcasm, because we all know sarcasm works because so many TV shows use it. If you watch anything from Sammy J on ABC, you'll see he's using sarcasm all the time by just playing on the words that he uses. So I love wordplay. I love sarcasm. So there are a lot of things that you can use. And yes, I'm working on engaging humor as well.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Michael. I often use past, present, and future, or for and against, or we call that the pendulum as well. And the hero's journey, that was quite interesting. I hadn't seen the hero's journey. So what I like about Toastmasters is we belong to an organisation, but we can bring in ideas from elsewhere and help to develop those into manipulating whatever we need to create our incredible speeches, because it's all about life experience, bringing that into Toastmasters, which makes all of the forum, whenever we speak at a meeting, far more interesting and diverse than it would be if we were following everything to the letter. So I love what you've brought in.
I should warn people about looking at the hero's journey, because then you'll realize Star Wars, The Hobbit, all those films are exactly the same. And you start to see that in so many different films, that you start following the hero's journey, because it's a classic storytelling method. So you can Google that, and there are so many different ways. It's been changed. I've given a simple one. There are as many academics talking about the hero's journey as there are about communication or leadership styles. Academics make a fortune from talking.
Thank you, Michael. So really appreciate everything you have put forward today.